an unprecedented move first by the government announced just yesterday, and tonight Australia will close all borders to foreign nationals from 9 p.m. The Australian banking system will receive $105 billion, the biggest stimulus in the nation's history. Overseas, Italy's death toll has risen above 3,400, now surpassing China.
Globally, the death toll stands at least 9,800, with more than 230,000 confirmed cases. And the number of cases in Australia has now exceeded 700. Well, first this morning to Brendan Smith at Brisbane International Airport. Brendan, good morning to you. The ban does come into effect tonight. That countdown well and truly on.
Well and truly on indeed, Peter. It comes into effect at 9 p.m. Eastern, meaning that this restriction will now apply to all foreign nationals entering Australia. They won't be able to do so, and the Australian Border Force will only be accepting Australian citizens, residents or their family members. As Laura was saying before, this is in a bid to stop the spread of coronavirus. And while in Australia we know it is quite small compared to all other nations, here in Queensland alone over the past 24 hours there were 50 new cases of coronavirus. So no doubt some very anxious times ahead for Queenslanders here and Australians alike. Let's hear from Prime Minister Scott Morrison.
We have already seen a very significant reduction in the travel to Australia by non-citizens and residents, and we believe it is essential now to take that further step to ensure that we now no longer will be allowing anyone, unless they're a citizen or a resident or a direct family member in those cases, as is applied to all the other travel bans we've put in place previously.
Now, of course, you know, so many countries implemented this ban weeks ago, and now Qantas is actually assisting Australians so desperate to get home. Let's hear from the PM again.
I want to thank Qantas also, who are offering to work with us to ensure that they maintain flights from particular parts of the world that can assist Australians to return to Australia, and we'll be working closely with them and those Australians who are overseas. We've been encouraging them to return to Australia. Those who are in more remote parts of the world, that could prove more challenging. But for those who are in other places, then it is our intention to ensure that we can maintain flights to enable them to come home as soon as possible.
Now, it's not yet known how long these bans will be put in place. Of course, the narrative right now is that coronavirus here in Australia will likely last a minimum of around 6 months. So no doubt some very tough times ahead. Of course, these bans are being put in place to protect Australians and protect Australian jobs. But we do know the tourism industry is likely to take a major hit. Tourism here alone accounts for around 3% of Australia's GDP.
Yeah, when you put it like that, Brendan, it's quite scary indeed. Thanks so much.